Welcome to the Drawing Board. I am your host and in-house artist, Erin Leffler. If you're not familiar with the Drawing Board, here's a quick rundown of what happens on the show. Each episode of the Drawing Board, I invite a guest from the comics and entertainment industry, and we get to find out a little bit more about what they do. And while I'm talking to my guests, I'm also drawing them. Sounds fun, right? Well, I'm super duper excited about my guest for this episode. I'm very fortunate to get to call her a friend. She's a really amazing human being. Please welcome my guest, Development Coordinator, Victoria Mail. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Erin.
Now, for kids at home who may not know the title I just used because it is a bigger title, how would you describe what you do?
I would describe what I do as I'm kind of in a support junior position at a film production and film production and development company in the entertainment industry. So basically what I do is we get a lot of scripts and different types of materials submitted for us to evaluate and see if we want to make into a movie or a TV show. So I'm one of the people who looks at all that material and says, hey, I don't know if this is the right fit for us or if there's something I'm really passionate about. I go, oh my gosh, everyone, we have to make this. We have to make this a movie or we have to make this a TV show. And then I help our team put together the right writer to write the project, or if we like the writer, we'll keep them on, or we find the right director to direct the project. Sometimes we'll find the right actor to play a role in the project, and then we sell it usually to a studio to help us make it. I also get to contribute feedback to the projects we're already working on and help shape those stories and how they come to life. And then I'm really lucky because my company has a franchise. So we're at a really exciting time right now where we have a couple movies in the pipeline right now that are getting ready to be released and getting made as well. Everything's kind of in a different stage, as well as get to see and support the franchise across all these different platforms, such as consumer products or digital and gaming. So that's been something I really loved about my company, is that I can see all the different ways creativity factors into a quote unquote brand or a specific story, and all the different types of storytelling that one can do with a singular idea.
That is a really, really cool sounding job. Now that just goes to show that there's so many different jobs that go into the things that we know and love. So for you, how long have you been doing this type of job?
So I've been with my company for 3.5 years, but I first got the bug when I moved out to Los Angeles 6 years ago and I started interning in development. That's when I really realized what it looks like from behind the scenes, of what it's like bringing a story to life on film or on screen in Hollywood. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. You kind of you get to have your hand in a little bit of everything. Because I also forgot to mention, sometimes I get to go to set too and supervise and support our projects being made on the ground, which is my favorite part of the job.
That is really neat. So have you always done this job, or was there a job that you held before you did this?
Well, I bounced around a little bit before I landed at my company. I've always worked in entertainment. I've always wanted to work in entertainment. I couldn't point to a singular moment because I feel like I was just born with it. But I did. I worked in casting. I worked in research. I've worked in just production. So I've bounced around to a couple of different aspects of the film and television industry. But the thing I like about development and production and working at a production company is you get a little sampling of everything.
Nice. So it sounds like you've always had a love for this type of job.
Oh yeah.
Now,
everybody to bring stories.
Yes. No, it's good. Everybody has like attributed their career path to somebody that inspired them, something that, kind of like caught their eye when they were little and said like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. So for you, what was that thing that just kind of made you go like, I want to be involved in that?
I feel like since we're such good friends, you probably know what the answer is, but it's definitely
I got a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of figured, I'm like, it's probably going to be Spider-Man, but I need to ask anyway.
It's Spider-Man. That movie, it blew my mind in the best of ways, and it I related so much to the character, and I just was so, that was like the first superhero thing I ever saw, and that introduced me to a lifelong love of superheroes, as you can see from the huge Avengers poster behind me. And yeah, and I just remember growing up, I finally got the DVD. I remember renting it from a video store, like a cassette tape, 30 times before my parents like caved and got me the DVD. And I remember watching every single featurette on that DVD. And believe it or not, that was a huge education or an introduction to me to all the different aspects of filmmaking. And I was just totally fascinated and wanted to be more engaged in it and learn and be a part of the team that makes this like a story that has impacted me so much come to life. Like I wanted to be able to bring the stuff I love to life, like all these different people have.
I
So
love that. That is
oh sorry.
that is like so great though. I love that.
Yeah. So,
Now, a lot of people, it's very deceptively simple when we see movies and stuff on screen. It just kind of feels like, oh, there it is. But you have the inside scoop. You're always looking and seeing how much time and effort all this stuff takes. Just walk us through a quick thing. How long does it take for a movie or a TV show to get off the ground and get running?
oh man, it can really vary too. Sometimes there's projects will take 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, to go from the idea and someone reading a script and saying, I want to make this, to when you see it in theaters. Sometimes it's not. My boss, the movie he made in the 80s that he's most well known for, they had less than a year. And that movie had special effects. And we just now look at him, we're like, how on earth did you do this? um, but the major kind of broad stroke steps are you get usually a screenwriter will write a script, and I'm not even going to necessarily factor that into the time because sometimes it takes forever. It can take another 10 years for someone to write something that they feel comfortable showing to people. And then, you know, an executive will get our hands on the script either directly from the writer, but usually from a representative of theirs, and then we'll put that project into development, which means we're going to give notes and feedback and help shape the story to get it into a place where we can sell it to a studio or another financier. And sometimes there's a lot of variety in this, but this is again kind of just broad strokes and from what from my company. And so that can take anywhere from a year to again 10 years.
Wow.
Once we sold it to the studio and the studio likes where the script is, then we go into pre-production. So we transition out of development into pre-production. And that's when we, you know, get a director formally committed to the project. That's when, you know, because in development, sometimes you'll have a director attached or an actor attached, which means it's kind of like a fancy promise that they'll do it. But when you go into pre-production, that's when, you know, you have to make good on your commitments. And sometimes you have to get a new actor or a new director. So we go in and that's when we start putting together the crew. That's when we find where we're going to shoot the film. We put all the pieces in place. And that can, again, take anywhere from 3 months to a year. And then that's also when we cast everyone as well. And then we'll go into production. And that's when we're actually filming everything. And again, that can go anywhere. That can be 2 weeks to a year, depending on what the kind of project is. So like kind of a small intimate drama can be shot in 2 weeks, but you know, a big, you know, like a big budget film, like a Marvel film or something with a bunch of special effects, that can film for closer to a year. And then after that, you wrap. So once you finish production, you wrap, and then you go into post-production, which is where you edit the film together. And, you know, if there's any visual effects, that's when you go in and you do all the visual effects. And then that's when you do all the sound mixing and build in all the sound effects and record the score, which is one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed in my entire career, was getting to watch the orchestra record a score for a movie. There's not, in my opinion, there's nothing more movie magical. And then, yeah, from there, and then we start putting together the marketing and how we're going to distribute the movie. And then from there, the movie, you know, we do a bunch of press for it. You know, the creators go out and talk it up to pretty much whoever will listen to them. and then the movie's released. So again, those are kind of the major steps. And again, sometimes it's super quick and it's fast and furious, and sometimes it's a long road. And usually, just so everyone knows, it's usually the latter. It's usually a long road. So just know that that's part of the process and don't get discouraged by it. A lot of like the best movies take a long time to make.
I love it. So it sounds like it's definitely a lot of work.
Yes. It takes a lot of people.
Now, working in the entertainment industry, I am sure that at times it can be a little challenging because all the focus seems to get put on people who we can see on screen. There's a lot of people who are in the back who help make these things happen. Do you ever find you struggle with the fact that kind of all the attention gets put on the people that we can see and not the people that we can't?
You know, it's interesting that not so much, because that was something I really learned when I first started working in development. Is the people out front, the actors, for instance, might get a lot of the attention, but usually the people behind the scenes have the power in the agency. So that actually was a big, as a young woman in this industry, really informed me wanting to pursue working in development and producing, because it meant that I got to make some of the decisions. I had a lot of say or what I would work on and where I would work. Whereas when you're an actor, or sometimes even when you're a certain type of crew member, you're just trying to get whatever job you'll be hired for. And so what I really liked about working in development and producing is that, you know, obviously I work for someone, I have a boss, and that he determines a lot, but so does my team. But when you mature in this field, you get a lot more agency and you get to decide what you want to work on. That being said, there's a ton of challenges and things that the entertainment industry needs to fix. You know, a lot of times talent and hard work loses to who you know and who you're related to, and not always the important things. Also, there's a lot of, you know, recently, I know it's been brought to light, there's a lot of misogyny and racism at play in the entertainment industry. And I think that's all underscored by, there's some really unhealthy power dynamics and kind of cycles of abuse with different aspects of the industry. And so that I don't think will change until we have more people who are diverse and authentic in positions of power. And it's something I find really important in my job, is finding and championing awesome up and coming diverse creators, and finding new places to find people as well is something I'm really passionate about.
I really, really like that point too, because it does seem like at times that the same people get the same roles over and over again. So it's very important that anybody who's watching this right now knows it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you come from. Try. Just go out there and try. I really love that. That's such a wonderful point, and I love talking about that with everyone, because it is important that anyone can do anything. Even if maybe the structure's telling you, no, you can't. Break the structure.
Yes, please. And I think now, especially with the younger generation of people coming up in the industry, we're definitely, I hope, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we're definitely focusing more on finding new people and fresh faces and representing a larger spectrum on screen, and also the people behind the scenes making it. So that's something that I take really seriously. And again, finding new places to find people. One of the things I'm proud of at my company, I go, why aren't we like really tapping into comics and graphic novels? And I have been known to go just running around conventions, looking for new talent or meeting with people, and also kind of bridging the gap, because I think there's so much talent in the comics industry, and obviously it's worked out well for Marvel to make movies and television shows, and DC, based on comics. So like, let's do that, and let's find really awesome new stories and characters and creators to portray and champion.
I love that. So, non-serious question. I love getting to ask this one because everyone's all different all over the board on this. We all are a fan of something. There's something that always just makes us kind of go like, that's my thing. So for you, whether it be pop culture, whether it be music, fashion, sports, you name it, what's your thing that just kind of makes you go when you see it?
I mean, we'll be here all night because I have so many.
We could stay on this topic forever.
We really could. I think obviously I love Spider-Man. I love Marvel comics and the cinematic universe. I love Superman and Wonder Woman and some aspects of the DC universe. I love Harry Potter. I love Disney. I love Broadway. But maybe something that people don't know that I'm as passionate about is I'm a huge history nerd. So I love Greek mythology, which I know is not technically history. I'm a huge Greek mythology nerd, and I love Tudor England, learning everything I can about Tudor England as well as old Hollywood. And then I also love the Great British Bake Off so much that I had a theme a couple years ago.
The Great British Bake Off is one of the best things that has ever come on TV.
It's my TV Xanax. It puts me at peace.
Yes. Now, we all kind of feel like at times that we wish we would have known a piece of information when we first started out, whatever career we start out. So for you, what was that piece of information you wish you would have known that you would now give to your younger self?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, it's trust yourself more. Know that you don't have to be perfect to start, and take risks. All of the biggest achievements and the things I'm most proud of accomplishing in my career here in Hollywood and Los Angeles is because I took a risk. And I know it's the hardest and the scariest thing to do, but usually what's waiting for you on the other side will outweigh that, even if you stumble at first. And I'm, again, now that I've been in this career path for a little while, it's interesting how things come back around, or when you take that risk and you're initially denied something, how that was actually what should have happened and something better and bigger comes to you.
Nice. That's a great piece of information. Definitely keep that in mind, everyone.
Important.
So for you, because I'm sure that there's a ton of dream projects you have, especially with the industry that you work in, what would be that thing if you had unlimited budget, unlimited abilities to work with anyone you want on anything you wanted at all? What would be that thing that you'd want to work on?
Oh man, I'm so fortunate because I've gotten to meet and work with a lot of my heroes. Like my first development internship in Los Angeles was with Tobey Maguire, who's my childhood hero, who's Spider-Man. So that was like a big deal. That really set the tone for what could be achieved in Los Angeles. But again, yeah, I could be here forever. I'm a little superstitious about saying those sorts of things, but obviously, given the poster behind me, I would love to be able to contribute to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some capacity, and help them tell a story that I personally love and am really passionate about. My favorite obscure just Marvel Universe character is Spider-Girl, who is Peter and Mary Jane's daughter, and she grows up and inherits powers and fights crime. And growing up, that was the first real female superhero I saw and got excited about, and the first comic I ever read. So getting to tell her story would be amazing, and I would not know what to do, because I also tell people that because I'm a natural brunette as well, I could be Toby and Kirsten's daughter. I swear, please. But now just to help bring that to life would be huge. And then I'm also really geeking out over MJ Rodriguez. I would love to find something to work on with her because I love her on Pose, and she's a Jersey girl like me and a huge comics nerd. She took her name MJ because of Mary Jane Watson. So to work with someone amazing and talented and that much of a nerd as me would be heaven.
I love that. I love how it goes back to Spider-Man. It's awesome.
It's always
if watching this is working with Marvel and you guys want somebody fresh to help you with a Spider-Man series, okay.
I'm available.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is a big thing in the entertainment industry and something I always love touching on because it's something that gets ingrained, it seems like a lot in media these days, the spirit of competition. Mm-hmm. Now, competitiveness can be good in certain aspects. I mean, the entire sports industry is based off of being competitive. But do you find it's better to be competitive with with similar creatives than you, or is it better to kind of build a group and be a knit community with them?
Ultimately, the latter. I think there's moments where you have to own your accomplishments and own your skills. And when you're being interviewed for a position or you find yourself in a situation, you have to believe in yourself and be like, I can handle this, and I know I'm the right person for the job. But at the same time, I think, you know, this is an incredibly competitive industry, but it's expanding right now. And I think there's room, and I think we're learning that you can make room for everyone, and find the right places for everyone to fit in and work. So I definitely think I'm all about collaboration over competition. Like, how can we work together? How can I support and champion you, rather than no, mine. uh, which I get is like a natural impulse for a lot of people, and I would count myself as one of them. Yeah, because I also think this is a very all-consuming industry, especially if you're in like a Los Angeles or a New York, or I guess maybe even now Atlanta. I've never worked down there, but I know they have a huge film presence now. It's very easy to be consumed by the hustle and trying to do what you're trying to do. So that's a piece of advice I give people, is that you build a tribe of like-minded, supportive people in your life, and also find places in your life where you can disengage and find things outside of what you're trying to pursue to nourish you, because otherwise you'll go insane.
That is perfect. That was the next thing I was going to touch on. If you should find different things outside of work, or should work be your everything. So 2-in-1 answer. That worked out great. Now, you have held so many different jobs before you've gotten to the job you have now. There's obviously got to be times where there have been rejections. Everybody deals with them in this industry, no matter what job we hold. For you, do you think it's important that kids take rejection personally, or that they should find ways that they can learn from a rejection?
Oh, definitely use it as a learning experience, and frame it the way I've learned how to deal with rejection is framing it as a way, as someone's for that. So, and if you accepted something you weren't meant for, then that will prevent you from going on to something better and something you're really meant for. So yeah, definitely, it's the hardest thing in the world. It's like, yeah, no, it's just stand on your head and do push-ups and like twirl while you're at it. Like that, to me, that's the equivalent of someone saying don't take rejection personally. And it's something you have to condition yourself, and be gentle with yourself if it doesn't come easily. Unfortunately, it takes a couple rejections to really understand and be at peace with it. But also, the more you do it and the more you put yourself out there and the more risks you take and the more times you realize it's not going to actually kill you, the less power it has over you. So that's why I say that take the risk. Don't be afraid if you stumble. It'll at least at the very least, it's building that muscle, and that it's a muscle you need in this industry, because there's a lot of rejection. But ultimately, it's putting you further on your path. And even though, maybe this opportunity didn't work out with someone, now you have a relationship and you'll find something to work on together in the future. And I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen at our company, where we didn't ultimately hire someone for a project, but we love them and we're continuing to look for things to work on with them, and we'll find something and we'll do it.
That is really good to know, and I love the way that you worded that.
Thank you.
Everybody kind of has this thing where we're like, this is the one takeaway I want. If anybody's listening to what I'm saying right now, this is the one takeaway that I want them to take away from this. So for you, what would that thing be to the kids and even the adults who are watching this now? What is the one takeaway you want them to walk away from this with?
Oh man. That your wildest dreams really can come true if you're willing to put in the time and the hard work and the patience. And I never thought I'd be able to say that genuinely. But again, I got to work, my first gig in Hollywood was interning for my childhood hero. I've gotten to meet a lot of people that I've looked up to that have only been in my wildest dreams. And I didn't have, again, like a famous relative, or I wasn't, I didn't grow up in Los Angeles or New York. I mean, I grew up in Jersey, but really, if you go after it and you put the work and the patience in, and you're a good person and you treat others well, it's kind of amazing what can happen. So just stay the course. know that it's going to take a while, and cheer others on when you see it happens for them. But just know that it's coming to you. It's again, I don't honestly, and if you interviewed me last year, Erin, I don't know if I'd say this, but again, it's a long game, and it's kind of wild what can happen.
I love that. And I remembered last year it was a completely different story. So it's an interesting thing to get to see how that shifts and everything over time. See, we all have ups and downs. Doesn't matter who we are, we all have them. Now, I know that you have to have something because you do a lot of amazing work outside of what you do for your job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a project or anything right now that you're working on, or do you have a side hustle that you want to tell us about?
I actually don't. Is it okay if we don't talk about the podcast?
Yeah, that's fine. That is not a problem.
When we're ever going to return to it.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Have we not talked about that? We will.
We have not, but
okay. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm gonna do it now.
Hey, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
But I absolutely love that piece of advice that you gave. That's like one of the best things I have heard in a long time.
Well, I know you've interviewed some amazing people, so I'm happy I can also contribute.
I love this though, because this is also giving us a different aspect to the entertainment industry, because I have had some people on here from the entertainment industry so far that work in film,
mm-hmm.
but I think it's important to get the behind the scenes too, because I feel like that's something that's really simple that we kind of take for granted at times.
Yeah. And that's something too, just a quick other mini takeaway, is that there's a lot of ways to be creative behind the scenes as well. In addition to just being on screen.
I love that. So now here's the fun part of the show where I get to show you what I was able to do of you during the interview.
I'm so I love it so much.
It's like a little flipped around, but you get the face idea.
It is me. You got the hair and like also just like my essence, like the enthusiasm. I know I'm an effusive person.
That's the wonderful thing about knowing the person who I'm interviewing, is that I can make it more personalized.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so beautiful. Again, it's just been a joy talking with you, and I've been so thankful that again you find my perspective worthy enough to be interviewed and to share. So and to get this gorgeous piece of artwork done of me, in addition, is just wild. Absolutely.
I'm so happy I was able to have you on this show. I think it's a really great perspective in that people out there who are looking to get a job in the industry who may not want to be in front of a camera, this is a different type of job in the industry that you could take a look at. I think that's really, really cool. And I can't thank you enough for coming on, and I can't thank everyone enough for all y'all who tuned in. Please make sure to tune in for the next episode of The Drawing Board. Again, I am your host and in-house artist, Erin Leffler. Catch you next time. And